In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus today, closing out the final week of our inaugural show here. Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick, our producer. I don't know where Simone is today.
She's somewhere in the world.
Honestly, when I walked in, I thought it was a little weird here. She's here, but she's not here. You know what? She's actually playing a little bit of golf with actually a person who's about to play golf in the Southeastern Conference. Frances Brown. She's going to play at Auburn, a great high school golfer. So she's out on the golf course, but we needed her energy in the room here. So we got the cardboard cutout here from our toy drive. So that'll be joining us here for the rest of the show. But Patrick, a great show on deck today. We have several great topics to close out the very first week here of Southeast Sports Plus. Let's take a look at our guests for today. Our Next Star Nation covering the SEC from far and abroad. We have had great guests all week long. We'll continue that today with Josiah Elmore joining us from the Huntsville affiliate over there at WHNT, doing a great job covering both Alabama and Auburn. We will focus on the Auburn Tigers with Josiah today. Also, Chessa Boucher, we got a chance to meet her for the first time at SEC Media Days in Atlanta. She has some hilarious stories. I know she's got some great content coming from LSU as the Tigers wrapping up the first couple of weeks there of fall camp. And then Holden Kruzmark from Oklahoma City will give us the latest on the Oklahoma Sooners as fall camp continues under second-year man Brent Venables over in Norman, Oklahoma. Second year for the Sooners inside the SEC. Our leading story today, Patrick, we're going to talk about injuries and phantom injuries because we've had a little bit of both here.
Phantom injuries are very common this time of year.
No question about it. We had a little, I don't even know what to call it, whether it's a rumor that's gone wild or maybe a truth that has been embellished. I don't think it was an outright lie, but there was a lot of scare with one injury in particular. That is one of the Heisman Trophy favorites in Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback there at LSU. As far as what we do know that there's something. There's not nothing, but it seems to me that it was a little embellished as to how his injury was I guess, described in the media this week.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a quarterback has a lower body injury, particularly around the knee area, everyone starts to get concerned about that because it's like, oh my gosh, like, in my opinion, when I think of knee injuries, I think, ACL, done for the year.
Right.
But it sounds like all that happened was he just accidentally went knee to knee with a defensive lineman's knee brace.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's not going to really feel good at all.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, it's like this time of year, people maybe overreact a little bit.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
We're less than a month away from the season now.
Yeah.
We're about 3 weeks.
Right.
And it's that time of year where, all those projections are in. You've got your preseason teams. You've got all this set up. And, I mean, this injury, I'm sure, gave Brian Kelly quite a bit of scare.
No question. It has to. And, obviously in camp, your quarterbacks aren't live. So they're not getting tackled to the ground, and they're not getting hit all that much unless it's a scrimmage or a game-like format for these guys. And for the most part, coaches put these guys, bubble wrap is too strong, but they put these guys in and they really protect them and take care of them throughout the course of spring practice because of this. But we've seen so many times before how an injury, especially to a quarterback or to a key leader on defense, can really derail the way a team comes out of the gates offensively. I mean, you think everything from, I would say, the most extreme version, maybe what happened to Aaron Rodgers a few years ago, where he has a little bit of a injury there in camp, but then comes out game one, snaps his Achilles, and the Jet season is over. And so I think everybody kind of goes to worst case scenarios in these situations. But in this case, he does say he's fine, so which is a good sign. But I'm interested to see how they handle him over the next couple of weeks here going into that first game against Clemson.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad that we're going to have Chessa on later today so we can ask her to get the full wrap on what's going on over there in LSU. But, yeah, I mean, we talked yesterday about Florida's wide receiver room also being hampered with injuries. I mean, they had what, four or five?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, this time of year, that's not what you want. And
No.
that wide receiver room was already depleted as is heading into camp.
Yeah, and not to mention the quarterback situation where obviously at the start of camp for the Florida Gators, DJ Lagway missed a couple of days at the beginning, and he was listed as day-to-day. So some injuries are really piling up there in Gainesville. It looks like it will be fine for right now for Garrett Nussmeier, and we'll see how they handle him over the next couple of weeks. But, yeah, you did allude to the Florida Gators wide receiver Dallas Wilson suffered a lower leg injury as well. And I think just like you said, with injuries, especially in camp, I think that the biggest thing for most teams is you want to get out of camp healthy. But but the second thing is you do want to have some physicality. You can't just play. You can't just have no contact football and then go into games that are inherently violent. So it's a fine line. It's a fine balance in the way that these things happen. And also, too, a lot of times these things are soft tissue injuries. They're not necessarily, back in the day, it was like whether it was you'll get a stinger or just something that's collision based. But a lot of times these are, whether it's non-contact or soft tissue injuries that have really been the things that hamper these guys.
Yeah, and I mean, we heard from Steve Sarkisian yesterday, Texas Longhorns head coach. He said, we have to practice football in order to be good at football.
Right.
And he was talking in regards to tackling because, I mean, their week 1 matchup is, I think I said this yesterday, it is going to be a college football playoff preview.
Yeah.
That being Texas and Ohio State. You cannot go into a matchup like that if you have not practiced tackling once.
Right.
And, I mean, he said there's going to be guys that are going to tackle us, and we're going to tackle guys. And he wants to see who are the guys that can play football and who are the guys that are kind of faking it through camp.
Right. And, I mean, obviously all of these guys are talented, but when you reach this level, when you reach the SEC and the Big Ten and a lot of these Power 4 schools, you got to turn up that intensity on Saturdays for sure or on game days for sure, but especially there in practice, it's a delicate balance. That is for sure. And coaches have to deal with that delicate balance. And speaking of coaches, there's one guy that wants to get back into the game, Patrick. A guy that has long ties to the SEC, Jimbo Fisher, former coach there at Florida State, won a national championship with Jameis Winston and company. Last time we heard from him, he was getting fired at Texas A&M for a lot of money, but apparently he wants to get back in the game.
$77 million buyout.
Yeah.
I mean,
gosh.
I wish I could get paid $77 million to just
not
do
work.
nothing.
To not work.
But yeah, he's been with the ACC network now, but he really came out and said, hey, I love this. I love what I'm doing right now. But my true passion is coaching.
Yeah.
And honestly, if he said this last year, there's a specific school I had in mind that he could have gone to.
Okay.
And I may or may not have any ties to this school.
I think I know where you're going with
Morgantown,
this.
West Virginia.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Before the Mountaineers went with Rich Rod. But honestly, I thought that he was going to be the front runner for that job before Rich Rod took it. But, I think we've had this discussion outside of this setting where it's like, okay, who is going to be what program is going to have the next big opening that one of these coaches that like Nick Saban may come back? I don't think he will. I think he's going to stay retired.
Me too.
But somebody of that stature like Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher,
what
is the next program that is going to have an opening that's going to be like, hey, Jimbo, come this way?
It's interesting because I think we will know, or we will at least get some seeds this time next month. Because I think if Oklahoma stumbles out of the gate, there could be some issues there. I think maybe if LSU stumbles out of the gate, not that they were firing these guys early on, but it's a situation where, hey, if some of these people that are on the hot seat don't get off to a good start, we start looking around the corner to see, okay, what jobs might be available in December. And we've talked about this a lot with the accelerated recruiting windows because of the early signing period. There's another accelerated calendar as well, and that's the hiring and firing of coaches. And so we see that a lot earlier this time of year. It's unfortunate, obviously, when you see it middle of the season because it can really derail a football team in a lot of ways, but sometimes that's the way that it is. But yeah, you talk about it. There are not that many guys that are out there right now that have a championship ring on their finger, but they do not have a job right now because they don't want to have a job right now. You know what I mean? So obviously you mentioned Nick Saban. Well, he doesn't want to have a job right now. Urban Meyer, He doesn't want to work right now, as far as we know. And I think both of those guys, if they do go back into coaching, I think they try to go to the next level. I know with Urban Meyer it failed, magnificently. But does he try it back one more time? Jimbo Fisher, he's not in that upper echelon to me of Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, but he is a guy that's won a championship. You can't take that away from him. And it is a situation where it's like, hey, where are the possibilities of these guys going? And it doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. It could be a situation like, let's just say at USC, let's say Lincoln Riley has a good year and he wants to taste the NFL. Yeah. Now that job becomes open, so it's a nice, obviously one of the power premier programs in all of college football. So it's not necessarily just who gets fired; it's who gets some interest elsewhere as well. I think USC could be one of those jobs for a guy like Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, I mean Jimbo Fisher, he had such an illustrious career over at Florida State. Yeah. It just didn't really work out at Texas A&M, but I mean, I'm going to stay in the ACC real quick. Bill Belichick going to UNC. Honestly, he's one of those coaches where the fan base is just glad that he's there.
Absolutely.
And he has absolutely no pressure at all. I mean, he's obviously one of the, I would argue, the greatest coach of all time.
For sure.
And now he's trying the collegiate level, but I mean, he could leave in the middle of the season. That's something. That's a different story.
Right. And especially, and I know you're a big Cowboys guy.
Yeah.
If the wheels fall off in Dallas, does Jerry Jones go into the college scene, whether it's Belichick or somebody else, to try to get his next guy? So I mean, the ripple effect is there, and I think in a lot of different ways. And the way that football is right now, all these jobs are almost kind of interconnected, because it used to be if you're an NFL guy, you're an NFL guy.
Yeah.
If you're a college guy, you're a college guy. But we've seen these worlds bleed so many times over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, I don't know, because Jerry Jones stands by his coaches. I mean, he stood behind Jason Garrett for what, in my opinion, was way too long.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Jason Garrett as a coach. He's a great guy, but he sticks by his coaches. I mean, he even stuck with Mike McCarthy for a while.
But did.
I don't see Belichick going to the Cowboys. I more so see Brian Dable getting fired and he goes to the Giants. I don't remember when their bye week is, but whenever that bye week is, he's going to go there.
That's interesting, because Dable obviously has ties to the SEC as well. Yeah. Worked for Nick Saban for a little bit. That would be interesting, because I think, have you seen the Giants' schedule? It is ruthless. I have no idea how they're going to win with a rookie quarterback. I mean, if they do go with him, obviously they have Jameis, Russell Wilson, and a couple others, but that schedule is ruthless. And I'm right there with you. If they do fire him, then it could be a situation where a pro guy goes down back to college. And for Dable, it would be going back to college. It would be like Belichick. Belichick spent 40 years in the NFL, and now he's in college. So it'll be really interesting to see. We're just getting started here on Southeast Sports Plus. Coming up next, we will talk to Josiah Elmore out of Huntsville, Alabama, talking the Auburn Tigers. Also joined a little bit later on by Chessa Boucher in Baton Rouge, Holden Cruzmark holding down the fort in Oklahoma City. That and so much more coming up here on Southeast Sports Plus. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here, and great to join on by another one of our Next Star Nation great guests this week. We've had a ton of great guests all week long, joined by another one. Welcome in Josiah Elmore out of WHNT in Huntsville. Good to see you, my man. And number one, how's it going so far this fall camp season, preseason practice, so to speak? And how's everything going over there with you guys there in North Alabama?
Oh, it's going great. Great to be here. This is the best time of the year, getting to go out to fall camps, high school and college, and just there's so much excitement in the air. Everybody feels like they have a chance, and it really makes it's a really beautiful thing about football this time of year. Is, everybody feels like, hey, we can go do something special this year.
Absolutely. And speaking of teams trying to do something special, that's where the Auburn Tigers are right now. Let's just dive straight into it, because Hugh Freeze enters a really pivotal season this year. Year number 3, first 2 years, no winning seasons. What are your early impressions about what Auburn is doing in fall camp and some of the things they'll need to do to have the kind of year they think they can have, and that especially they want down there in the fall?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously first thing you think of is this is probably the most talented roster they've had since, maybe 2017. And so I think that adds the added layer of pressure for Hugh. And early in fall camp, they look good. They physically, it looks like a different team than we saw a year ago. And hopefully, for Hugh, that will translate to wins on the field. If not, it might get a little sticky down there.
Yeah, Auburn is an interesting place because they have championship aspirations, and you can obviously point to the 2010 team and the 2013 team that made the national championship, the 04 team as well that got snubbed. But this is an Auburn program that kind of sees themselves in the upper echelon of college football. How hot, if you were to put a degree on it, and let's just say 100 is the cap, how hot is that seat there for Hugh Freeze, and how important is a hot start there for Auburn, especially with that first game against Baylor?
I mean, I would say it's 75 degrees.
Okay.
I mean, it's getting pretty warm, especially it kind of looks how this season looks is going to be a big defining factor. If you beat Georgia or you beat Alabama, that might take some temperature down on it. But if you go 8-4 and 2 ugly losses to Alabama and Georgia,
yeah.
I don't know if it cools it down any. It might give you another year, but it's not going to cool it down.
Absolutely. Here with Josiah Elmore out of Huntsville, Alabama. Okay, Josiah, there was a lot made of Hugh Freeze and the golf game and all of that. I won't necessarily get into that because we talked about it. We talked with him one-on-one actually in Atlanta, and that seemed to me like much ado about nothing. But it also seemed to me the fever pitch with which Auburn fans are keeping up with his football team. But one of the things he said was he really loves his wide receiver room. And guys, a guy like Cam Coleman coming back and Perry Thompson coming back. What do you make of what they have there on the outside for new quarterback Jackson Arnold?
I mean, I think it's probably one of the best receiver rooms they've ever had, to be honest with you. And from a talent standpoint, it's all there. You got big guys who can go get it on the outside. You've got these quick, twitchy guys in the slot that really can, take a drag route, put a foot in the ground, and then they're gone 80 yards for the house. And I think that's got to be – it might be the first time, maybe in my lifetime, that Auburn's receiver room, I feel better about it than maybe their running back room. That's not saying anything about their running back room. It's just you have so much talent in this receiver room that it's kind of rare that you feel like there's more talent in the receiver room than there is in the running back room.
Hey, Josiah, you were just talking about that wide receiver room. I know the number one wide receiver in the portal, Eric Singleton, comes over from Georgia Tech. What have you seen out of him to start this camp?
Well, he looks as advertised. I mean, it's a twitchy guy who you can put in the slot. He also can play outside, which I think will be a great addition for them. I don't know if y'all seen the video, but Jackson Arnold had a great ball to him in the red zone portion yesterday. And, I mean, he ran a perfect route. It looked crisp, and Jackson looked on it with him. So hopefully there's some chemistry there. But I think Singleton's one of those guys you can get really excited about because this is almost like a KLS from last year, except for maybe even better of, okay, this guy transfers in and he's going to look to go put his name in the NFL draft next year and get taken pretty high.
That's a great point, Josiah. That thought popped in my head as soon as you said it. And for the uninitiated, KLS is Keandre Lambert-Smith, who had an instant impact transferring in from Penn State over there to Auburn. You mentioned Jackson Arnold. I wanted to ask about him specifically. From what you've heard pre-camp and from what you've seen from what he's done in practice so far and the way Hugh Freeze has talked about his quarterback, what are some of your early impressions of what he can bring to this team and some of the ways that he might be able to differentiate himself from Peyton Thorne, who was a guy that came in as well from another team, a Power 4 team, but probably didn't live up to expectations as much as Auburn fans wanted him to?
Yeah, I think the thing with Jackson is, his floor in theory should be higher than Peyton Thorne's to begin with because he's from a tool standpoint, he's a more talented quarterback. If it translates, that's another story. But what we've seen so far is he seems to be confident. He seems to be running the offense well. I think it was I don't know that Hugh really had a choice, but I do think it was a good thing to go ahead and shut down any sort of quarterback competition and just say, hey, this is Jackson's team. Because coming out of Oklahoma, there were some confidence issues there because of, the play on the field, which some was attributed to him, some attributed to injuries and coaching turnover. But I think he seems confident. I think, Obviously when the bullets start flying on August 29th, it'll be different. But right now he seems strong.
No question about it. Okay, so as far as we talked about the offense, let's talk a little bit about the defense as well, because this Auburn defense lost guys like Asante Samuel, or Eugene Asante, I should say. But this team to me seems like they're still trailing in the right direction. I would say defensively, what do you make of this Auburn football team, and what are their strengths going into the year?
Yeah, I would say strengths are definitely the defensive back room. I mean, there's a lot of talent in the backfield there. The defensive line looks like an SEC defensive line for the first time in a couple of years. Obviously there's a big question mark at the linebacker room. You're talking about Eugene leaving. You return to Marcus Riddick, which I think will be a strong return, but then you kind of have some questions, some guys transferring in, some young guys who've been kind of working their way up throughout, the last couple of years, see if they can actually put some product on the field. But I think if you look at this 2025 Auburn team, where they're going to have success, if they have success on the defensive front, is their D-line is going to pressure opposing teams' quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They're going to make a mistake, throw a ball too soon, and one of these pesky corners or safeties is going to go get it.
No question. All right, so the key thing with Auburn last year was the close games. Could they win those close games? Number one, do you see them being able to get over the hump this year as it relates to the games that are one possession, that are tight, especially early on? Last year's schedule was really favorable if you just looked at it from the outset. 5 home games to start the season before that trip to Georgia. This year it's a little bit different, but it's still, in my opinion, a schedule that you can win easily. Let's just say those games are close. Say the Baylor game is close. Do you see them being able to win and edge out those close games?
I hate to give you this answer, but it's really I don't know. We had a high school coach around here give a great answer about how you can prepare guys, you can put them through drills, you can do everything, but there's no substitute for how it's going to be when it actually is. And I kind of feel that way with this team. You can talk about competition drills, finishing drills, whatever it is. It's really when you're in that moment, can you finish it? I would lean on the side of, yes, I think they will, because you have a lot of these younger guys who had a lot of success in high school who weren't used to losing. And I would say that after having that bad taste in their mouth a season ago, they're not gonna repeat on that. But as we talk about it all year, every year, you can talk the talk, but until you walk the walk, nobody's really gonna believe that you can do it.
No question. We're gonna listen to some talk of the talk right now from Hugh Freeze, a little bit about his quarterback in Jackson Arnold and his growth so far in the first couple of weeks of camp.
I get paid to try to fix the stuff we're not doing well, so that's usually the only time I have from go to room and say we have to get this fixed, and there's not a lot that he's a little greedy in the RPO game a bit. But I think we can get that corrected pretty simply, and I don't think he did that today. After yesterday's meeting, I don't remember a single one that he tried to force and make something happen. So I'm really pleased with his decision making. I think the ball is coming out quick, and I think he's using his legs when he doesn't feel comfortable with what he sees, and creating, again, everything's not team periods, but he's creating explosive plays when he does move out of the pocket. He's throwing really well on the run. So to this point, I'm really pleased with where he's at.
Good stuff there from Hugh Freeze, and it has to be encouraging for Auburn fans going into the year. Quarterback's best friend, obviously, Josiah, is the running game, and they got some good news there with Jeremiah Cobb. Tell the folks out there about their running back and being able to come back and really help out this offense this year.
Yeah, I think he'll be a great, got over that finger injury. He's looking good. I think, something that he adds a lot that maybe you didn't have a season ago with Jarquez, as great as he was he wasn't really a true receiving back. I think Jeremiah Cobb can add both of those layers to the offense, where he can put it between the tackles, but he can also go run a route for you and do some damage there. So I think that's a huge asset. And then same thing with Damari Austin. He's not as big of a receiving threat, but he's put on weight. He's going to be kind of your bowling ball per se in this offense, and kind of just run some guys over.
Josiah, let's go back to Hugh Freeze here for a second. I'm going to pose this scenario to you, and I want to hear what you have to say. If Auburn does not make a bowl game, but they beat Alabama, does Hugh Freeze keep his job?
No.
No.
Ooh,
Okay.
Because of this. I think if they are going into the Iron Bowl and they're not already bowl eligible, there will be an interim head coach.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. I can see that.
I can see that as well. And it kind of I guess confirms our point in the previous segment about just how that calendar is accelerated. So I think Josiah is right. I think if you aren't eligible, no matter what happens in that game, they might be looking for somebody new. Josiah Elmore, great stuff there out of Huntsville. Looking forward to having you on a whole lot more as we dive deep into the fall camp and into the regular season as well.
Appreciate it, guys. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Josiah Elmore out of Huntsville, Alabama, covering the Auburn Tigers today for us here on Southeast Sports Plus, but also does a great job with Alabama as well and covering all teams out of the SEC. Huntsville's kind of really well located because they'll get a little Tennessee. They can get a little of the teams that are in the Mississippi area, Alabama and Auburn as well. Great job there out of WHNT. Well, coming up next, we head over and we'll talk some Bayou Bengals with Chesa Boucher out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We'll have that and more coming up next on Southeast Sports Plus. And welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Closing out the first week here. It's been a fast-moving week.
Yes.
I will say this, Patrick, because it was obviously a lot of work to get this show up and running, get this space, the studio up and running as well. But this week has absolutely flown by. 4 shows have flown by so far. Special thanks there to Josiah Elmore, who helped kick off this final show of this week here on Friday. And we will have 2 more guests coming up over the course of the next hour and a half or so of this show. But first off, we want to do something fun. We've been doing some
we
rankings.
like fun.
Absolutely.
We like fun on this show.
Absolutely. We've been doing rankings here lately, and I will say, I think my team yesterday, we had a fantasy football team, an all SEC team, had to pick a current head coach, quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end. And honestly, I loved my team. I think my team will go out there and drop 70 on
All
anybody.
I'm going to say is my team, I was thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I like bold predictions. I don't want to just, blend in and be like, oh, yeah, just take the easy way out. No.
Yeah.
I want pure chaos.
I loved it. Honestly, I loved your team. And you picked a couple guys that are new to the SEC. A guy like Jaden Ott that's coming in from Cal. I had the Lane Train. I had Garrett Nussmeier, and I had a Cam Coleman out of Auburn. I really liked our team there as well. We're doing something a little bit different because we're expanding the search. It doesn't have to be current. This is all time over the last, actually I shouldn't say all time, over the last 20 years, 25 years, since the year 2000, the best teams to ever grace the field in the SEC. I'll go first here. I don't think that there's much debate about who the number one overall team is.
You can't debate that.
You can make an argument this is the greatest college football team of all time, period. There's a couple of other teams that are out there. I know a lot of people like that 01 Miami team. I like that team too. But to me, you can't create a top 3 list of teams all time and not include that 2019 LSU team. Obviously, you had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Derek Stingley. That team was absolutely loaded. I also will go with the 2022 Georgia Bulldogs, led by Kirby Smart. This is a phenomenal football team, especially defensively. Most of this team is now playing with the Philadelphia Eagles because Howie Roseman just picked Georgia Bulldogs all over the place. But I really like that team.
Just a minor league team for the Eagles, basically.
No, it sincerely really is. It's like Athens North. The year before that, Alabama had a really, really solid team. I picked the 2021 Alabama football team, the team that was one of Nick Saban's last ones to have the championship, the trophies, and everything else. And then I'm going with a team that a lot of people might question because they did not hoist a national championship trophy. I'm going to go with the 2004 Auburn Tigers. And the reason why I'm doing this is because Auburn that season, yes, they were stiffed out of the BCS. It was the BCS at the time. It wasn't a college football playoff. But this team was absolutely loaded going into that football season. And then the team that came out of there was a bunch of players that had great careers in the NFL. That Auburn football team ended up going 13-0, had to watch the national championship game, and they ended up being the number 2 team in the nation after the season ended, even though they did not play in the national championship game. The reason why, USC just absolutely beat the brakes off of Oklahoma that year. I think it was 55-19, I think was the final score in that matchup. And everybody knew that Tommy Tuberville's Auburn Tigers, they were absolutely
He made an appearance yesterday.
Yeah,
he made a mention, I should say.
Yeah, he had an appearance there in the show. But let me rattle off some names that were on that football team. Carnell Williams was a running back. Great career in the NFL. Ronnie Brown was a running back. That backfield alone might be one of the best backfields in SEC history. Defensive back Carlos Rogers was on that team, had a really fruitful career in the NFL as well. Jason Campbell at quarterback. Now, I know he didn't have the greatest NFL career, however, a phenomenal college career. Then on the defensive side, you had Marcus McNeil and Ben Grubbs. Marcus McNeil in the trenches on the O-line, or on the offensive line, I should say, and then Ben Grubbs there on the offensive line as well. That 2004 Auburn team, yes, they did not win a championship, but they were absolutely stacked going into that year. So I'll get some pushback on that on my number 4 pick.
But I got plenty of pushback.
Okay,
yesterday.
go ahead. I invited.
So I'm basically exposing my youth here on this show, being born in 2003. These are basically all the teams I can remember.
But, you know what? Fair enough. Fair enough. You know what? We have a little bit of longer memory over here on this side of the table.
Well, as you mentioned, I personally believe LSU in 2019 is the greatest team of all time. Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
You had NFL stars.
Yeah. Not
just role players, not just draft, like people on the draft board. No. These were all stars.
Yeah.
Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had a good couple of years. Unfortunate that, he's started to become the way things have gone recently. But Justin Jefferson, I mean,
probably the best.
I would not want to guard him in college.
Okay, all right. So here's an interesting debate within the debate. I think we can agree. We'll get to your team. We'll get back to your team here in a second. We can agree that 2019 team for LSU was unbelievable. Who was the best receiver on that team? Because you had Justin Jefferson and you had Jamar Chase. Both of them were on that team.
I don't know. I think you got to go Justin Jefferson.
I know, me too. I think Jamar won the Biletnikoff that year.
Yeah.
I think, so he was the best receiver in college football. But Justin Jefferson has just been unbelievable in the NFL. I mean, obviously both of them are just superstars right now.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase actually just played last night in the preseason game. Him and Joe Burrow played there in that preseason game. It was unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even fair that they're even in the same team in the NFL.
Exactly.
Like, they should have watched just that. Like, honestly, just watch next time. I'm sure they did, but
yeah.
Anyways, we'll get back to it here. 2020 Alabama, that was just, here, let's chuck it to Devontae Smith, and he'll just score a touchdown like almost every time.
That's the reason I wanted to. That team, from a talent perspective, was unbelievable. But in almost the same way, I did not put Cam Newton's Auburn team on there. And I'm not saying that Auburn was a one-man team, because that defense was really good. Nick Fairley was on that defense. But to me, Alabama that year was just pick a quarterback and throw the ball in the air. And it was the COVID year too, so it was a weird scheduling situation. There were no fans there, but there was no question that talent was just unbelievable. Yeah,
I mean, but if you look at that quarterback room, it was talented at the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
Some haven't panned out right now.
Right.
I mean, still,
Alabama
was on that run.
It was
where it was like quarterback.
Right. And that was like a couple of years removed from it just being all running backs. It was, whether it was Derrick Henry and Trent Richardson and all those guys they put in the NFL, and then they started getting these quarterbacks out there. I think that was Tua's. Was that the year? Well, that's the year Mac Jones.
Mac
Jones was the quarterback that year. Tua the year before, but. I mean, you honestly, it was, to me, that 2020 team for Alabama. I would have loved to see that team in a full regular season. The kind of regular season that LSU had the year before. The results might not change, and then we might see the exact same thing run through an all SEC schedule and go win a national championship. But I felt like that team wasn't celebrated as much because of everything that happened that year.
Yeah, and then moving along, I had 2008 Florida at number 3. I mean that's a pretty standard pick.
Yeah.
I
had the 2006 team only because that was the year that Tebow was a freshman going into that season. Chris Leak was, but it really started that dynasty, that little mini run that Urban had.
And then 2010 Auburn, there's your Cam Newton.
Yep.
And then 2009 Alabama. I had to put this one in here because of Mark Ingram. In my opinion, he was the first.
Yeah, first player, first
Heisman.
Player. Yeah,
first Heisman. Yeah, in Alabama.
And obviously there's a long line of unbelievable players who didn't win the Heisman Trophy. Think of guys like Ozzie Newsome that had played a long time there, and everybody else that had played at Alabama that had unbelievable careers, did not win the Heisman Trophy. First one ever was to Mark Ingram there in that 2009 year. We'll be doing top 5s for the rest of the year as we get ready for another big year in college football. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will talk to Chessa Boucher out of Baton Rouge, talking all things LSU and a little injury that gave people a little shakeup there in the state of Louisiana. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus, closing out the final week of our brand new show here on WKRG Plus. Happy to be joined by several people on Next Star Nation. We got a chance to catch up with one of them before this show kicked off in Atlanta, actually, at SEC Media Days. Chessa Boucher joining us from Baton Rouge. And Chessa, good to see you again. And obviously from that point to this point, we've got some more intel. Some real, some not so real. We'll get into a lot of it coming up here on fall camp there for the LSU Tigers. But first off, how are you? How have the last few weeks been since camp opened up?
I thought it was going to kind of be a slow time and I was going to chill and ease back into it from vacation, but that just was not the case. Fall camp hits and it's like freaking 90-0, everything at once. And so I like it. I like the high pace volume of stuff. It keeps me on my toes. I don't like to get bored, so they definitely keep it interesting. But yeah, it's been interesting through fall camp, almost 2 weeks now. Tomorrow will be the end of the second week for fall camp for LSU, and we're here. Football is almost here, guys.
Yeah, almost kickoff time there, and LSU has one of the marquee games in the country. We'll get to that big Clemson game in a moment, but first, going back to SEC Media Days, that was not even a month ago, and Brian Kelly seemed to me like the easiest, coolest, calmest guy of all 16 coaches. And here lately, I think he's been a little annoyed about some news / fake news / things that got out there on social media. Give us a little bit of intel about what happened there with Garrett Nussmeier, what actually happened, and then what the social media world ran with.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you. I think Brian Kelly's been pretty chill, but I think when you have the talented roster that he's put together, that you feel a little bit more comfortable and things are going to go easy. Here in Baton Rouge, things are never easy. LSU likes to make it difficult. And so a few days ago, the big rumor that was started by apparently a South Carolina burner account on social media said that Garrett Nussmeier tore his ACL and he was out for the season. And it was like the freaking world was about to come to an end, just like shut it all down, fire Brian Kelly. Like, it was absolutely nuts. But we did get to talk to Joe Sloan, the OC, today. But before we talked to him, Brian Kelly came in and met with the media and basically put all the rumors to bed. He said that it's not a torn ACL. It's, in fact, tendonitis in the patella in his knee. He had surgery on his knee back in 2023. This is part of it, and he said he just kind of tweaked something. So the severity of the injury, he said on a scale of 1 to 10 was 1.5. Couldn't even tell you if it was the left or the right knee. That's how not monumental it is. Right. And so Brian Kelly kind of had a little bit of fun with it. We did find out Nuss through today, and he will be in full pads ready to go on Saturday, which we'll get to see. So we'll have video. We'll get to kind of fill it out and know what's going on. But, man, it was wild and crazy, and I'm just glad that it's almost Saturday.
Well, it's one of those weird things where it's actually the good thing that the rumor got out there, because now you can provide the proof that everybody can just breathe a sigh of relief when you guys get to shoot that video. And when you actually have it in, it's going to be like, okay, he's fine. LSU's chances of accomplishing all of our goals are still fine going into the year. Let's stay with Nussmeier for just a moment. It's great that he's healthy, great that he's okay, but there's a lot of expectations on him coming into this season. The only quarterback to throw for more than 4,000 yards a year ago. Just where is his mindset from your time talking to him or people closest to him, whether it's the coach or quarterback's coach, his teammates, and just some of the ways that he's handling all the expectations for a really talented LSU team this year?
Yeah, I absolutely love Garrett Nussmeier, and I love him in the simple fact of, one, who stays at a program for 5 years? Not nobody these days, much less a quarterback of his caliber. So I've been impressed with him on that front. I also love his leadership, and he is not shy when it comes to, hey, I needed to make better plays last year with my legs. I didn't. That's on me. Got into the weight room, has added weight, and wants to be able to extend plays with his legs. And so I respect that. I respect a guy who says, hey, that's on me. We could have been better had I done my job better. And so I respect that. I like that about him. I think his leadership has always been top notch. As soon as Jane Daniels was out the door, he was leading everything, every huddle. And so I think his leadership speaks for itself. So it's impressive to me. I know that the expectations are huge around here because you have not only Joe Burrow, but Jaden Daniels both won Heisman trophies after the jump from year 1 to year 2. So Garrett, he wants that expectation. He says that it's a privilege, and he is honored to be in such great company, but he wants to do that, and he wants to be Garrett Nussmeier and put himself in his own company. So I respect that. A lot of people might shy away from it. He is not one to shy away from it. And I think that they've really added a lot to this wide receiving core, as we've seen over the past almost decade. It's been wide receiver U. And so I think that we're going to kind of carry that tradition this year with all the weapons that he has to throw. I just want this offensive line to gel and to keep him upright and to stay healthy. And I think this team will be one of the best offenses in the country.
Chessa, I want to shy away here from the offense here for a second. During that 3-game losing streak last year, the rushing defense was a bit of a question. I mean, against Alabama, 311 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. How has Brian Kelly and the Tigers kind of rebounded and revamped that D-line this year?
Yeah, that was one of the most shocking things last year, is that they could not stop a mobile quarterback. It was just like, what are we doing? Why? You should be prepared for that. Bama, you saw it with Jalen Milroe went off, and we're just like, what are we doing? Y'all are better than this. So I think over the past few years, you've seen a defensive line struggle. You've seen a defensive line it was almost 3 years ago. They didn't even line up on the line of scrimmage correctly in ball games. They had to call in one of the GOATs, Pete Jenkins, who is a defensive line guru, had to come in and help. Granted, Coach Lindsey, the defensive line coach that was here, he was dealing with a medical emergency, so they didn't actually have a D-line coach there to facilitate what they needed to do. But I think what they've got in this year's class, you have Jack Pyburn, a Florida transfer. He's an absolute dog off the edge. You bring in Jacoby and Guillory back. He's a 6-year senior. He tore his Achilles in the second game of the season. He's healthy. He's ready to go. You have a great mix of young guys and experienced guys and talented. They're all talented. And I think being the second year under Blake Baker, they know what the expectations are, and they're ready to kind of put these rumors to bed of, hey, we can't stop the run. We're going to show you we can stop the run. And I think bringing in Kyle Williams, who won a national championship at LSU and had a Hall of Fame career for the Bills, he's come in, taken over for Bo Davis. I think he's the guy who's getting the guys that he wants in the way that they're going to play that position. They're just feisty, and you love to see it, because for a few years you were missing that just nasty D-line up front that we've seen from LSU years past. It just wasn't there, and they look real good, real good.
Absolutely. Okay, so I understand that the defense, as you said, looks good. The offense has a lot of things to smile about, but this schedule is not easy at all. Beginning with that very first game in the battle of which one is the real Death Valley. They'll play the one at South Carolina. By the way, Chester, let's just I'll keep it 100 with you. Simone and I say the one in Baton Rouge. Patrick, the only one he's been to is the one in Clemson.
Yeah, so this isn't really fair. I mean,
no, it's not. And we've said that, obviously we'll have to go to both to experience both. But I've always claimed that the real Death Valley is the one there in Baton Rouge. Nevertheless, they're going to go to the other Death Valley there in Clemson. And then over the course of the next month, They're going to play Florida, who had a great end of the year last year, and then Ole Miss over in the Grove. This is even before we kick off the season in October. Those 3 really tough games. How do you feel like this team is able to handle just the rough start, the tough start there overall with those high expectations going into the season?
Yeah, it's crazy if you look at it. For the past 5 years, LSU hasn't won a season opener. You're like, holy cow, what are we doing? How can you not win a season opener? Granted, like this year, it's going to be a top 10 matchup. Last year, it was a top 15 matchup with USC. So it hasn't been easy out of the gate. I think the difference for this team is that they're focused and they want it. Like Brian Kelly talked about it at SEC Media Days. They went into the weight room and they put 1-0 and they put a Clemson tiger paw in the background. And everything is all about Clemson. And I think realizing, hey, we've come out of the gate and basically dropped the ball every year to start the season. You can't do it this year, and you especially can't do it against Clemson. I've never been to Clemson or their stadium. I'm actually traveling for that game, so I'm excited to go. But I just feel like it's a different animal from the Death Valley in Baton Rouge as opposed to Dabo Sweeney and him running down the hill and doing all of that. Like, I think it's going to be a little bit different, and I think Clemson fans might not know what to expect from LSU, which I love. I think that's going to give them the leg up, and I think LSU really wants to prove, like, this is cute, but it's going to be Death Valley Jr., just like Brian Kelly said a few weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't even know he said that. And
yeah.
And Dabo's not even here to defend himself, but that's the second time he's been roasted this week for no matter how fast he's run down that hill. Simone mentioned that earlier, and now you mentioned it. It's hilarious to me just how much that Death Valley is being clowned this week here on that top 10 matchup here. Before we get you out of here, Chessa, one big thing I think as it relates to this year's team is the history of LSU football and the fact that the last few head coaches have all won national championships. How important is it this year with the backdrop of everything this year for Brian Kelly to have a successful season? I'm not saying it's championship or bust, but it feels like at LSU it is kind of that way in a lot of ways.
I think it's definitely college football or college football playoffs or bust, because if you look at this roster, he hasn't had this talented of a roster. Over the years, he's tried to divvy up the high school recruits and the transfer portal. Last year, they went lighter on the transfer portal. We see basically how they finished the season. They didn't finish strong, and they were like, hey, we really need to get these guys in with experience, some more veterans, and some more impactful players. And so when they bring in the #1 transfer portal class with 18 transfers and guys that are making a huge statement out of the gate in fall camp, I think that's what they were missing a lot of that last season. They just didn't have those dogs. And I think Brian Kelly has put up the money and has found the guys, and he's built the border around Louisiana and was like, you ain't coming in and getting our guys, they're staying here. And I think he realized the importance of keeping those guys home and getting the right guys that are impactful players. I think that was I don't want to say mistake, but biggest blunder over the past few years is getting these guys, and they don't translate to the SEC. And so I think he's brought in a Jack Pyburn. He's brought in Gooden from South Florida, who is already lighting it up on the D line. So it's those guys that are already making an impact that are going to be huge for this team, especially with the season right around the corner.
Absolutely. Chessa Boucher, phenomenal work. Excellent hit here. And we will talk to you once again before that big game against Clemson, and as you say, in the fake Death Valley. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. You have a good one.
Thank you so much. Chessa Boucher joining us out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hour number 1 has flown by here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will have hour number 2 and an update on Simone's golf game.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus, final hour of the final day of the first week of our show. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh, and the cardboard cutout of Simone Eli.
We just need to see that again.
Yeah, we got to see it again. You know, our friend, we could not do the show without our friend. Our friend's out there playing golf with actually an SEC golfer, and Francis Brown, who's going to be a freshman for Auburn's talented women's golf team. And so because Simone's not here, we have the cardboard cutout just to feel the energy, to feel the presence here, and to kind of ignite the fire, keep that fire going that we've come to know and love.
Yeah, and I think we need to just bring that cardboard cutout every time she's not here for one of the shows, so that way she's still here.
She's still here, exactly, yeah.
So technically she hasn't been absent because there's been a Simone sitting in the seat.
We might be giving her an out. That way she's like, I'm here all the time.
Yeah, so if it's just us two, you'll know why. Maybe then she'll finally go off into her wannabe golf pro.
Exactly.
Golf influencer here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, check her out. I'm sure she's got a lot of stuff on social media right now about the golf game. But like you, like myself, we all enjoy a little time out there on the link. So great stuff there. And also great stuff in our first hour with both Josiah Elmore and Chessa Boucher talking all things Auburn Tigers and the LSU Tigers going into another big year. And coming up next in this hour, we'll catch up with Holden Kruzmark, get a little catch up with the Oklahoma Sooners going into year 2 in the SEC. He is there representing KFOR there in Oklahoma City. So can't wait to hear from Holden, getting a little bit more insight on the Sooners. We've got a lot from their rivals on the other side of the Red River. Great job for this past week from Roger Wallace, giving us some great Texas insight as well. So can't wait to hear from Holden about the Oklahoma Sooners. But
I'm gonna have to ask him something outside of just the Sooners.
Okay, really?
I'm gonna have to ask him about the Thunder.
Okay, yeah, you know what?
I'm gonna throw out there that I am a Pacers fan.
Yeah, we actually got a chance, a small snippet yesterday with Ryan Chapman, who works for Sooners, Oklahoma Sooners on SI, and he's had a nice little pocket here of time because in this time they hosted the Women's College World Series, which of course had Oklahoma and Texas, 2 teams out of the SEC that were there. Texas ended up winning the national championship. Then you had the Oklahoma City Thunder. All that same time span. So it kind of took a little pressure off the Oklahoma Sooners, their football team, because of so much that was happening there. But yeah, as our resident Pacers fan,
resident Pacers fan. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to keep that one.
I like it. So yeah, obviously Game 7 did not go your way, but yeah, we'll catch up with Holden Kruzmark on all things Oklahoma. So much is going on there, both in Oklahoma City and also close by there in Norman. But first off, let's talk big picture. College football. We heard from Greg Sankey earlier this summer about the overall structure and what's going on right now in college athletics and some early developments here as it relates to P4 and just how much power they will yield going over the next few years here. Patrick, tell everybody what Pete Thamel had to say.
Yeah, Pete Thamel announced that the Power 4 conferences, being the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and SEC, gained oversight of 65% of the NCAA's governance structure. Wow. I mean, the 4 conferences already held so much power as is. Now it just makes it even bigger. And SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey did say at SEC Media Days about super conferences being the new thing.
Yeah.
I think that this is just going to make that an even more realistic reality.
Right. I think it crystallizes the fact that there are super conferences. And for a long time, I think that word was used as a buzzword in the media. But the people that maybe the powers that be, so to speak, they did not use the word super conferences because I think that it brings an unnecessary scare tactic that there's going to be a few Goliaths and a bunch of smaller guys, but he didn't shy away from the word this time around. He said, we'll use super conferences for those that want to use it. So for the first time, we kind of heard him say it and embrace it, but he might just be just saying, hey, let's just not delay the inevitable here. We hold the power in college football, specifically to the SEC, because if I were to rank the way that the 4 are, I mean, it's 65% going to the Power 4, but in my opinion, 95% of that 65% is probably held within the Southeastern Conference in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no question about it. And, I mean, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark even said that, like, I'm sure he has some concern about, hey, where's the Big 12 heading?
Right.
And then, obviously, the ACC, who knows? I mean, there's always – it's this time of year, this time of August, where the rumors get thrown around. Oh, absolutely. Clemson's leaving the ACC. They're going to join the SEC, all that stuff. But, I mean, yeah, the SEC and Big Ten, as you mentioned, definitely have the majority of the power.
Right.
But I do want to go back to that super conference real quick. I want to make a maybe somewhat weird analogy to the MLB.
Yeah.
The NL and the
Yeah.
AL,
Yeah.
15 and 15.
Right.
The SEC's got 16. And I mean, there's only 2 conferences or 2 leagues.
I know
two
what you meant.
leagues.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah.
In the MLB.
Right.
With the way college football is headed, there could only be 2 conferences, the Big 12 and the SEC.
In 5 years, do you think, as far as a logistics standpoint, do you think that what is going to end up happening is that the SEC and the Big 10 will basically absorb what is left of the Big 12 and the ACC, and we do have 2 conferences like we do in, like you said, Major League Baseball, like you do in the NFL, like you do in the East and West in the NBA? Do you think that's the case, or do you think that it will stay this 4 and the power of the other 2 of the 4, the ACC and the Big 12, will just diminish year by year?
You know, I was thinking about this the other day, actually. And I think the thing that the Big 12 and the ACC don't have going for them anymore is that they're no longer the premier college basketball conferences.
Right.
Unfortunately for them, I mean, the Big 12 there for a couple of years, I want to say from, I don't know, 2019 to like 2023, 24. That was really their like big run of, oh yeah, here's the best conference in college basketball.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at the SEC, and I don't mean to shy away from football, but you look at the SEC last year in college basketball. I mean, they were deep, and it was just like, you know, carnage against one another, and it really resembled the Big 12 2 years ago. And I mean, unfortunately for the ACC, it's really UNC and Duke every year now.
Yeah.
Virginia's fallen off.
Right.
My beloved Syracuse Orange have fallen off. Miami's fallen off.
Miami's fallen off. Yeah,
it's gone.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, NC State had that run. They made what was it? They made the Final Four.
They made the Final Four on the backs of DJ Burns.
Right. But they kind of came out of nowhere. But I mean, you're right. That is a league that was it prided itself. If you think back in the day when Maryland was in that league and a few others, that it to me because of the two revenue sports being football and men's basketball. Obviously, women's basketball has been huge here lately. But those have been carried by the SEC so far, and just how big it's gotten. When it comes down to the nuts and bolts of the governance, what all do you think actually changes? Because we already got word earlier this week, that the men's and women's college basketball NCAA tournament is not changing as far as the numbers go. As far as what might change or what might skew the way of the Power Four with all this new power that they have.
Well, I think if you're the group of 5 or any mid-major team, you've got to be concerned for your future. I mean, we'll go ahead and talk here about Memphis trying to join the Big 12. I mean, you look at Memphis offering this very large package to join the Big 12 and getting denied, which that's another story within itself. We were just talking about what's the Big 12 going to look like in 5 years. I mean, this might not help them, but I look at a school like SMU.
Yeah.
They offered a lot of revenue to just join the ACC.
Right.
I think they gave up like 5 years worth of media revenue to the ACC just so they could join. And I mean, it worked out in their favor last year. They did make the college football playoff.
Right.
But I mean, these mid-major schools are going to have to adapt to survive. I mean, you also look at the Mountain West.
Right.
That's slowly crumbling. The Pac-12 barely survived, and now it's starting to get revived again.
Right.
But I'm concerned because these mid-major schools often provide some of the most exciting action when it comes to sports.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it, and I'm so glad you brought up that tweet because this wasn't a small number, $200 million. And for a conference to say no to that is really, to me, it's surprising, but also to me, it shows that I think that we're going to bottleneck as far as the power teams, the power schools are going to bottleneck in there. And you mentioned it. It worked out well for SMU to be able to not only get into the league, but then have immediate success. I don't see everybody else doing that. And then if you get away from the automatic bids, the whole bracket, I'm talking the football bracket now, the whole bracket could be, basically 1 through 8. All SEC and Big Ten teams, and it will just show you, it will just be more in your face, I think, of just the power that these two conferences have.
And I think that the Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormark, was I was a little bit appalled by what he said at spring meetings about the 5+11 college football playoff model where you have your 5 and then you have your 11 at large.
Right.
If you're the Big 12
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to get the most amount of teams into the college football playoff that you can, why would you leave 11 spots up to a selection committee that we've already seen is going to favor the SEC?
Yeah, right. And deservedly so.
Oh, yeah, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question that the SEC schedule is harder than the Big 12.
Right.
But it's just, if you're really trying to save your conference,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little bit stunned by the take on it.
Right. And it's not like you had those two power brokers that you had for the longest time when Texas and Oklahoma were in that conference, and then in years before that when Texas A&M was in the conference. I mean, you look up and down the Big 12, and it's Arizona State, who obviously made the playoff last year, Arizona, BYU, Baylor, Cincinnati, Colorado, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas State. These are not football factories. I know Oklahoma State's had a great pedigree over the years. TCU has played for a national championship in recent memory. Texas Tech has had some good teams. Obviously, they can lay claim to the best quarterback in the NFL.
Well, I mean, Texas. Also, if you look at Texas Tech's recruiting classes the next coming years, I mean, I think next year they spent $20 million.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to get to the top of the Big 12. It's just the fact that they're in the Big 12 might hold something against them. But if you win your conference, then there's nothing against you at all.
Exactly. And to me, I really like teams like Utah, West Virginia. It's a weird footprint, but it's a footprint that sort of kind of works in some small ways. I know you're going all the way from Utah to West Virginia out to Provo in the Utah area to the desert in Phoenix for both Arizona and Arizona State. It's an interesting conference, but I agree with you. I think that if stack those teams up with the middle of the SEC in the middle of the Big 12, I think they're squeezing themselves playoffs in that model.
I mean, I think even Mississippi State would be finishing in the top half of the Big 12.
No question.
And I will say, one of the things I do like about the SEC is that it stayed true to its name.
Right.
The Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
You had the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Right.
Well, now you can just change it to All Coast Conference.
Exactly.
With getting Stanford and Cal all the way out there. But I mean, the SEC, there is that pedigree. And we've mentioned it many times on the show. It means more, and it really does because 1 through 16, any of those teams could go to the Big 12, the ACC, and still compete.
Yeah, and still have a number one compete, but then be competitive in multiple sports as well because the SEC has proved itself in baseball and basketball, women's basketball as well. So it'll be an interesting case study to see how it all shakes out here over the next few years and just what that governance looks like, because I think that this could be a domino effect. This might be a story that people kind of just their eyes dilate and they don't see it, and then until 3 years later we're like, oh, why is the college football bracket and why did the NCAA tournament bracket, why does it favor so many Big 12 and SEC teams? I think this could be the first of that, and a lot more other things as time goes along there. But I think this is kind of putting a stamp on something that we've already known, but now we're actually getting it, in real time, getting it in I'll say black and white, so to speak here, and getting it on paper and official that the Power Four will dominate about 65% of the governance moving forward in college athletics. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will go out to Oklahoma City and catch up with our friend Holden Kruzmark. You don't want to miss it. We'll talk some Sooners coming up next. All right, welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here on the final day of the first week of our great show. Simone Eli is out playing golf today, but we got our cardboard cutout here joining us, and we'll update you on her golf game coming our way in just a bit. But first, let's talk some Oklahoma Sooners football from Oklahoma City. Our buddy Holden Kruzmark joining us from KFOR. First off, Holden, thank you for joining us. How have you been so far?
Pretty good. I mean, I guess I'm not as good as Simone, though. I'd rather be out on the golf course right now than sitting here in the studio. But, it's always a good day getting to talk Samogi football.
And no question about it. I think all of us are a little bit jealous here of Simone and her golf game. And you got a nice little setup there as well. Tell us about what's going on there at KFOR.
Yeah, we've got this whole setup. They just started introducing it a few months ago.
Yeah.
We do some shows for our K4 Plus app in the afternoon and everything. So we got a nice little setup here. It's open concept newsroom, so you can see pretty much everything going on behind me. And yeah,
it's great stuff. Absolutely. We'll talk a little Oklahoma Sooners football. Brent Venables entering another year with this program, and it seems to me a little bit like Hugh Freeze at Auburn, where it's a pivotal year for a lot of different reasons. It is year 3. There are high expectations with this program. What are some of the things that you're hearing from camp, the way camp is going so far, as it relates to the expectations of the year ahead?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because, Auburn has OU's former quarterback.
That's right.
So there's even more similarities there than one might think. But, I mean, the expectations around Norman, around the state with Oklahoma football are sky high. And that tends to happen when you were in the Big 12 and you kind of just dominate the conference year in and year out. Those expectations are pretty high. And so 2 6-win seasons in the first 3 years for a head coach, that's not going to be met pretty well by the fan base. And so there's a little bit on edge, but I think there's a lot of positivity coming around the team in this fall camp right now. Personally, I am trying to hold myself back from buying into all that positivity. Kind of cautious optimism. Like I want to see it before it actually happens, and so. It's a big season, and really, especially when you consider the fact that Venables is going back to being the defensive coordinator this year, and they brought in Ben Arbuckle, a 29-year-old offensive coordinator. So it's a lot to. I mean, he's banking basically his future as OU's head coach on this 29-year-old OC being able to right the ship on offense, because their offense was really bad last year. That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, Holden, you did mention Ben Arbuckle there. Well, it helps for him to have John Mateer come with him. What are your thoughts on if he's able to – do you believe that he's going to be able to translate to SEC play?
That is the big question, because Washington State didn't exactly have a packed schedule in terms of good opponents. They did have a couple, though. I mean, they played Washington. They played Texas Tech, so they had a couple of opponents. They played San Diego State and stuff like that. But that's really the question, and it's a question that gets asked to Jaden Knott as well, who transferred from Cal, the running back. Can these two do it in the SEC at the highest levels? And I think they can. I mean, that's what everybody keeps saying is, football's football. If you can do it, on the West Coast, you can do it here. And those two guys have a lot of confidence in themselves too. Like, getting to talk to them, you can just tell they are sure of themselves. And one of the things I think that was maybe a little bit off last year with Jackson Arnold was just, it almost kind of felt like he had a little bit of a fake confidence to him, where it wasn't like, like you could feel you can feel more conviction from John Mateer and Jay Knott, and maybe Jackson's a little more confident now. But that was one of the things that I noticed last year, is it almost seemed like he was trying to put on a front just a little bit, that he was confident in himself and his game and the offense.
Yeah, and it kind of played out that way because, as you said, you got to that Auburn game, and then in the Auburn game he gets benched for a true freshman. But then, Jackson Arnold, I'm talking about last year with Jackson Arnold, of course, gets benched for Michael Hawkins Jr. And then now going into another season, Brent Venables leaning on yet another quarterback. And you mentioned Arbuckle and just the youth and all the new faces that will be there on the offensive side. But you mentioned it with Brent Venables. He's a defensive guy. That's where he made his mark, won national championships, helped Clemson, just basically like rewrote Clemson history as far as the defense goes. What's your take on what that Oklahoma defense will look like with now Venables, one of the best in the game?
Yeah, it's going to look largely the same. I mean, last year he brought in Zach Alley to be the defensive coordinator. He kind of was basically we joked to call him Brent Jr. Because he, worked under Brent for so long. He kind of sounded like him a little bit. Same thing. So it's all been the Venables defense. Now these guys, a lot of them have had multiple years to kind of learn it, which is the key to a Brent Venables defense. You have to be in it for a couple years, because that's what you hear from some of the transfers is like, it's just so much to take in to really understand it. And so, you lose a couple of key contributors in Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman, Ethan Downs, but a lot of these guys that they're stepping up into it have been in the system for a while. Like I was starting to make some notes about the returners, and basically I just have a whole long list of guys that have, coming back from last year that have been here, or, were freshmen last year, can make that jump. And one of the things I thought was interesting is they didn't go into the portal for any cornerbacks or safeties or anything like that. They seem to really like the guys that they have there to play cornerback, safety. They brought in a defensive end, Marvin Jones Jr. That was pretty much their only addition through the transfer portal on defense. So they seem to be pretty confident in the guys that they've recruited to be able to step up and, kind of take that next step this year.
Yeah, and that defense held Alabama to 3 points in a huge win.
Yeah.
I think that it got Jackson Arnold the job there at Auburn. He talked about Brent Venables. We got a chance to hear from him before the season on those new faces with Ott as well as Mateer.
Well, I don't know how much fits they're going to, give the SEC. I know a lot of people in here have made comments that, they're going to really struggle in the SEC because this isn't Wyoming and whoever else that we're quantifying that against. But I don't see how's that different from, he hasn't played in the SEC. Well, how about a freshman quarterback playing in the SEC? He hadn't played the SEC either, right? But there's been plenty of, young players that never played college football until their freshman year, and then they do really well. So I think for those guys in particular, why I believe in them, I think they've got a lot of natural talent. I think they got instincts. They got belief. They've got tremendous work ethic. They've got humility to be prepared and show up every day, to strain, to get better, fight, when things aren't going their way. And but they're really, they're really good football players at the end of the day.
I kind of like that no-nonsense approach, and it's like, hey, we could point to a lot of different factors of guys that haven't played in the SEC. True freshmen, they were playing high school football the year before, and we've seen true freshmen blow up in the SEC. So, what makes a guy that played at a different conference any less ready for high-level football in the SEC, a level where Venables was going with that. Speaking of the non-conference, there is a huge non-conference game coming up in week 2 for the Oklahoma Sooners as they line up against Michigan in a huge game. I think a really pivotal game as far as what you were talking about earlier for Venables overall with that fan base. As Oklahoma prepares for that football game, what are some of the early impressions of the first P4 game they'll play in the schedule?
Yeah, and really, if you look at the schedule outside of that, Michigan really kind of makes that non-conference schedule look way better, because outside of them, it's those are not good teams you're playing. At least they're not all at home. Yeah, I mean, playing Temple, so
right.
The fans don't have to sit through all of those, piddly games that they've got on the schedule. But Michigan will be that first big test, because if you lose that game, I think people will start sitting there going, well, here we go again. That was kind of the only reason they got to 6 wins last year, is because they had 4 non-conference games that were pretty light, and then they swept the state of Alabama somehow, beating Bama in Norman. I still don't really understand how that happened last year. But yeah, you got to beat Michigan to really kind of solidify what you're building. And I think really the key is going to be, what do we see from this offensive line against a, defense like what Michigan brings? Because the offensive line really was kind of the big problem last year, was the fact that they couldn't really buy enough time for Jackson. So he was getting pressured pretty quickly. And it didn't really matter who was playing quarterback. I mean, they both could run, but they just didn't get much time back there. and they had so many injuries to the wide receivers that they weren't getting too much separation. I think the offensive line, how they look against Michigan, will determine whether they can actually win games in the SEC this year. Because if they can hold up against that Michigan front, that should be a pretty good test and, give them confidence moving forward. They did bring back a lot of young guys that did play a little bit for them last year. I think they added a couple transfers kind of around the edge to, kind of build some depth there. So I think they like the group, but it's kind of a wait and see. And that Michigan game really is going to be pivotal to, really kind of determine what kind of season we can see from OU and whether or not all of the changes and, things like that will pay off in this pivotal year for Venables and company.
Yeah, Holden, we got a chance to talk to some of our friends on the other side of that good old rivalry that you guys have there. I want to pose this question to you. How likely is it that Oklahoma is 5-0 heading into their matchup against Texas and the Longhorns being 3-2?
And the Longhorns being 3-2, I don't know. I would give it a pretty good chance that OU's 5-0. I don't know that Michigan really is the only game that's kind of sitting there where you're kind of like, it's kind of 50-50. But I also don't really know what to expect from Michigan because obviously they won the national championship a couple years ago, but then they weren't as good this past year. So
you got that new quarterback, Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, if they're going to be closer to that team, then I'd say it's a pretty good chance. But the fact that they're playing in Norman, that should give OU a pretty good boost. And I would say the chances of them being 5-0 are pretty good. There's been quite a few years where OU and Texas enter in that Red River rivalry where they're, both 4-1, 5-0, 5-0, 4-1, things like that. I would not give a good chance at Texas being 3-2 though. I have a hard time imagining Texas losing more than 2 games the entire season, considering what they're picked number 1 in the preseason SEC poll. So
yeah, I mean, but they have that extremely hard test to open up the year going to Columbus.
Yeah. But outside of that, their SEC schedule, I know last year was pretty soft, and so I can't imagine outside of Ohio State, Oklahoma, that they've got too many good challenges on that schedule. I mean, I guess they get Florida, so I don't know if that's in Austin or in Gainesville, but they got a pretty good easy run of it. Unlike OU, I feel like they got the tougher end of the bargain their first 2 years in the conference, but it'll even out. So whether that's Venables reaping that benefit or somebody else of a little bit of a softer schedule next year.
No question. Holden, your answer was perfect because it tees up something I wanted to ask you. And forgive me because this is going to be more of a vibes thing, more so than anything that you can actually put concrete proof to.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma and Texas, both first year in the SEC last year. Given just how well the arch rival played, making it all the way to the college football semifinal, what's been the general consensus about how much Oklahoma needs to improve this year, just vis-a-vis the success that Texas had last year? I'll give you a case in point. Once again, I'll do a vibe/hypothetical. If Alabama walked into a new conference and Auburn walked into a new conference in the same year, there would just be this almost Auburn feeling like they need to accelerate who they are even more, just because your rival has done it and their rival lives in a bigger house, so to speak, in that conference. Yeah. Same thing for Texas OU. Paint me a picture of just the way that the fans think as well as you can, being a guy that's from Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, in your scenario, I feel like you're painting OU as Auburn and Texas as Alabama.
Not necessarily. No.
I would go the other way based on just success in the history.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, OU's had way more success in the 21st century than Texas has.
Right.
But recently, Texas was in a much better spot heading into the SEC. Sark had a couple more years to kind of build that depth, and Venables really had to kind of, start from the ground and really start building this thing up. And it seemed like, his year 2, the last year in the Big 12, they had a good team. They weren't great, but, they won 10 games and everything. But a lot of those guys ended up leaving, either, graduating or whatever else. And they put a lot of faith in Jackson Arnold to replace Dylan Gabriel. If they had Dylan Gabriel last year, granted, you can't factor in all the injuries and everything like that. But Dylan Gabriel last year, I think, makes that team at least, gives them a couple more wins.
Right.
So I would say that's, OU definitely had a lot of work to do going into the SEC, and I think they're confident that they learned enough from last year that they are able to, kind of take those lessons and build it in. But yeah, it's been a work in progress because the things that worked in the Big 12 don't always work in the SEC. There's a little bit more size in the SEC, which they've learned. And I know talking to their DNs coach recently, they've had a lot of their guys bulking up. So they're big on DNs, and their kind of focus was to try and stop the run game, because he's like, everybody likes to get in those 3rd and long situations and, have your speedy pass rushers get in there, but you got to get to 3rd and long first. Right. And that's a little bit of the problem. But, their defense, I think their defense is SEC ready. They showed it last year. Their defense was not the problem at all. It was that offense, and particularly the offensive line. They just didn't have enough size, experience, you name it. They just didn't have it on that O-line, and it showed last year. And then, we all saw how it went. Not well. I would say the vibes are better this year. They're better. But, I think people realize they still have some work to do to be able to get onto that level that Texas is in terms of, right now in the SEC.
Holden, I want to shy away here from the Sooners now. Oklahoma City. I mean, that place was bumping in June. Yeah. And especially with the Thunder. Can you give us some insight on, how are they, I saw all those contracts that they signed. How do they still have money?
Well, the contracts don't kick in for a little bit. So
that helps.
But Sam Presti is just a genius, mastermind, whatever you want to say. So I can't pretend to comprehend the things that he can comprehend. But I trust that he's got this on lock. You've got the three main guys they've got them tied up. That's going to be all of your salary cap. But the one thing that he's done that's maybe a little bit under the radar, when they were tanking, he acquired so many future draft picks that they have so many first-round picks that they can just keep, kind of adding supplemental talent. Like basically they're expecting, guys like Isaiah Hartenstein, Alex Caruso, probably Lou Dort to get priced out eventually. But they've got so many, ways of getting guys on the cheap that I think that they can be really good for, I don't know, the next decade, presuming that they all stay healthy. That's the big thing, which we all know with OU football, health can make a big difference in terms of your success. But yeah, I mean, SGA, J-Dub, Chet, that's a really good 3. They still got Hartenstein and Caruso for a couple more years on contracts. And before those SGA, J-Dub, and Chet extensions really kick in and everything like that, he's done a really good job at layering this thing. And if you're a fan of any other team in the league, I'd be scared.
Absolutely. And
just the fact that
I unfortunately am.
He's our resident Pacers fan over here.
I'm the resident
Pacers fan.
Okay. And
that's tough.
It is tough. It is tough. And you mentioned SGA, and it's kind of a beautiful transition because he played in the SEC. Obviously, he played at Kentucky and then just recently signed, I think, the richest contract in NBA history. He doesn't necessarily have the kind of trajectory that we see in the NBA where he launches a superstar status, because a lot of times we see that so early on. We saw it with guys like LeBron James and others. We saw it very early. With Shea, he was good, but no, I don't think anybody really saw from that to MVP, finals MVP, and the richest contract in NBA history. Just what have you seen from his growth from the time he left Lexington, Kentucky to where he is now?
Yeah, and I don't think the Clippers saw it either. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have made that Paul George trade. But yeah, no, SGA is just kind of he's a quiet guy. He doesn't say too much. He's very thoughtful in his responses, but he, has kind of gone under the radar in that aspect. And, he gets traded to Oklahoma City. They have that, 1 year where they make the playoffs in the bubble, and then they kind of trade off Chris Paul and all the other guys and stuff like that. So they were losing for a while. So people didn't really notice his game as much. And, here in OKC, people kind of latched onto him pretty quickly as he kind of just continued to evolve his game. And he just kind of kept getting better and better every year. And I remember last year, I was like, well, it'd be pretty hard for him to get better from what he's been doing, and then he gets better again. And so this year I'm like, I mean, can he get better again? I don't know. I mean, it's insane just the growth he continues to show. I mean, if he can develop a consistent 3-point shot, I mean, I don't really know how you're supposed to guard him on defense, because that's kind of really the only thing that's lacking from his game. He can hit the three, but he's not a 38% 3-point shooter or something like that. So if he gets up to that level, I mean, just watch out. And I mean, I don't even know if the fans in Kentucky realized how big of a star he would become, because it's crazy just the rise that he's been on. And everybody looks at the offense too. He's a good defender too. And I don't know if he's been that way his entire career going back to Kentucky or what, but he's no slouch on defense. And I mean, I guess it helps when you have guys like Dort and Caruso and Chet down low blocking, that you don't have to guard super tight one-on-one, because you got other guys around you that can help you out, pick up the slack a little bit. So, but yeah, SGA, man, he is a baller, and Oklahoma City is so lucky to have him. It's it's crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to see that firsthand, all series. Unfortunately, bold prediction: do the Thunder run the league for years to come, or is there going to be another team that kind of comes out of nowhere, kind of like what the Pacers did this year in the East, that could uppercut them?
Well, I think the Spurs and the Rockets are kind of those two teams that to look at. They're kind of in that same, have been young, and they're kind of, building up around it. They've had some good draft picks. The Spurs have had a lot of lottery guys. That was the interesting thing about the Thunder is, they didn't, outside of Chet, who was the number 2 pick a few years ago, they've had a lot of second-round guys, undrafted guys that have contributed to this team. I mean, Shea, I think he was like the 12th, 13th pick. J-Dub was around that too. Cason Wallace, I think, was maybe the only other lottery guy. And, Caruso was undrafted, Dort undrafted, Aaron Wiggins, second-round pick, Jalen Williams, he was a second-round pick. I think Hartenstein was undrafted too, or no, he was a late second-round pick. That's the crazy thing. The Spurs, they've got a lot of lottery guys, and I think that they can kind of quickly make that ascent with Wemby, and now the Rockets have Durant. I think those are the two biggest challengers, and obviously you've got Jokic in Denver. I would say, I want to say, OKC is going to dominate the West for a while, but the West is just a beast year in and year out. So there's probably going to be some years where they don't make it to the finals. But I would say by and large, I would expect at least another 2 to 3 championships over the next 8 years from the Thunder. I feel like that's conservative too.
Honestly, I agree. I mean, Sam Presti's has done an unbelievable job, as you mentioned, and being able to lock those guys in really helps out.
And they're all still young too. Shea's like, he's just starting his prime. J-Dub and Chet aren't even in their primes, quote unquote. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, the fact that they already won a title this year, it's only going to make them more confident. And I think they're going to just, continue to grow too. That's the scary part, is how young they are. They're just going to keep getting better in theory.
Absolutely.
Since you brought up the Rockets, I wanna get your thoughts on this. How do you feel that now Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden have all played for both Oklahoma City and then went eventually to Houston?
Yeah, I would say two
former big three.
But the Rockets really only got the best version of Harden out of those three, because Russ, they had him for the 1 year and kind of shipped him off, and Durant's in his upper 30s now, so they're not going to get prime KD. But it's pretty funny how that ends up working out. And I think really the Harden situation was such a big learning experience for Sam Presti, and that's why things look the way they are now. And he locked up those 3 guys, because that was kind of the thing in that Harden era, was that they I don't want to say got cheap, but they didn't want to pay everybody, and so he kind of ended up being the odd man out in that situation. So he learned a lot from that, and it'll be really interesting to see what the Rockets do this year with Kevin Durant. And it's so funny that all 3 have ended up playing there at some point in their career.
Right.
We'll see if KD can stay healthy, though. That's kind of been his big thing lately, is if he can stay healthy. And I mean, he hasn't even made it out of he hasn't made a conference finals appearance since he was with the Warriors, I don't think.
Yep,
so
that's right.
It'll be pretty interesting to see if he can fit into that group and they can actually make a run at it.
No question. It's been all smiles there in Oklahoma City since June when they hosted the Larry O'Brien until July when they locked up Shea. And then hopefully those smiles will continue from Thunder fans on to Sooner fans. I'm sure there's a Venn diagram that is really big with both of those fan bases going on. Holden, thank you so much for your time. Say hey to Jim Nagy, by the way. He was a former Senior Bowl the executive director down here, lived in Mobile for a really long time. I know he's the general manager there. So if you see him, tell him all of his friends in Mobile, Simone and Gerhard and Patrick, all say hey to him there. I know he's doing great right there in Norman.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Jade Knott was his big first get.
Yeah,
you were like,
right.
whoa, okay, that's pretty good, I guess. And I joked with Mateer, and I was like, you kind of like having this Nagy guy around if he's gonna be getting you guys like Jade Knott out of the portal. So I think OU will like having Jim Nagy around. I think the fans will like him too.
No question. He was great here in Mobile. I know he'll be great there in Norman. You're great there in Oklahoma City as well. Holden Kruzmark, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Holden Kruzmark doing a great job. I did not realize we would talk as much basketball as we did, but you have to keep in mind that the fact that their biggest star, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I haven't said anything but SGA for forever, so I'm going to call him SGA. SGA did play in the SEC, and Holden brought up a great point that sometimes you forget that he
really
played
do.
because I mean, he was good at Kentucky, but you just forget it because he didn't make that kind of Boogie Cousins or John Wall kind of impact there in Lexington.
Exactly.
So really good stuff there from Holden Kruzmark and all of our guests today here on Southeast Sports Plus. We're going to grab a quick break really fast. We'll come back and let you know how Simone's doing out there on the golf course and so much more. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Almost on our closing out the final couple segments of the first week of shows, and we got out of the gate here. It's been really strong as far as our guests go and everything else here, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, this has been in the works for longer than I've been here.
For sure, yeah.
But I mean, right that first day that I got here, I was like envisioning the future. I was like, man, this is going to be really fun.
Absolutely.
And it has been so much fun.
Right.
The one thing I didn't realize is how fast the time actually goes by.
I know.
Because I'm not going to lie, I sat there and I was like, 2 hours. Okay. Huh? How am I going to fill the 2 hours?
Right.
But now it's like, you need 4 hours.
Exactly, yeah. And we've had unbelievable guests, including here today, Josiah Elmore joining us from the Huntsville area. We also had Chessa Boucher joining us from Baton Rouge, and Holden Kruzmark doing a great job in Oklahoma City, talking both the Oklahoma Sooners and the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by former SEC star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And Patrick, we have a third member of our team who's been with us the entire time helping build the show, but not with us today. Our fearless leader, Simone Eli, here. So we got our cardboard cutout because she's out there on the golf course, and it looks like we have a bit of an update of what's going on out there. How is she shooting?
Yeah, so I mean, it sounded like a great round today. She got to play with an Auburn commit, Frances Brown.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's some pictures from today.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice. So there's Simone and Frances Brown. There you see her rocking her Auburn gear. She'll be a freshman at the Auburn University. She just came off of an unbelievable career at UMS Wright, where she won 4 consecutive state championships. Also had a runner-up the year before that. And an unbelievable representative here in Mobile, but also going to help Auburn. And Auburn has a really strong golf team as well.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I think they were a top 10 team. So Frances Brown out there doing great work, and Simone making all of us jealous. I know Holden said so earlier, but I'm sure we all wish we were on.
I mean, any day that you're on the golf course, you can't be mad. But we did get an update. They did win.
Okay.
They won their golf tournament.
Nice.
She sent me a picture of the scorecard in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So the front 9 was par. This was I believe it was a 5-person scramble. There's 5 people on the scorecard.
Okay.
The front 9 par was 36. They shot a 27 on the front. And apparently she carried them the whole time. But
does anybody believe that?
Here's what Simone said.
Yeah.
Well, it took us 4 holes to use someone else's shot. She went back. She, meaning Frances Brown,
right,
went back-to-back solo birdie to start, par on a par 3 because she was just off the green. I mean,
oh my goodness. My goodness. Like, but it lets you know, and we talk about this all the time in sports, whenever you're dealing with somebody who's just plays on another level, that has to be what it's like playing with Frances Brown.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you can't even. I've played with a Division III golfer.
Right.
I've never played with a Division I golfer, but I mean, even the D3 guy, I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't even hold my own. And I like to think I'm somewhat decent.
You're good. You're good.
I have a single-digit handicap, but until that gets into scratch and the plus territory, I will be keeping my job. I will not be making the switch to professional just yet.
I do not have a single-digit handicap, and I'm probably almost approaching triple digits on the handicap there. You have to probably give me 5 strokes a hole. It's been rough, but I'm working on it.
You're good at Topgolf, though.
Yeah, I'm decent at Topgolf. If I could just translate Topgolf to regular golf, then it's like coaches talk about visualization. If I could just visualize every shot when I'm on the actual golf course, like I'm at Topgolf, I think I'd have a pretty good run there. But yeah, great to have the 3 guests that we've had so far today, and great to have Simone here in cardboard form. And we will have her in regular form coming up on Monday as we start week 2 here of Southeast Sports Plus. We're going to grab a quick break right here. We will be right back to wrap up the final segment of the final show of week 1 of Southeast Sports Plus. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus, closing out the final week of shows here in our very first week. Take a look at a little bit of the best of after a great first week.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back in Southeast Sports Plus. Simone, Eli, Gerhard, Math, and Gani as we are rolling right along, counting down to the college football season, G, only a couple of weeks away.
Your unique perspective, I think, will offer a lot of insight on this. You've been with this team when they were in the Big 12 and then the move to the SEC. This time last year, it was all about 16 strong now.
First, Gary, dare I tell you that I could cover them in the Southwest Conference?
No, you did. I was actually going to assume that, but I didn't want to edge you.
But you didn't want to ask, right?
Joining us from Fayetteville, Courtney. I think we should just go ahead and just get Rip Bandit off here and call the Hogs. Okay, so like.
Oh, I gotta stand by for this one.
No, Gerhard, you're a part of this. Okay.
Pig Suey.
Chatting with these guys all across Nexstar Nation over the next 2 hours as we join you every day from 2 to 4.
There's 2 things that I kind of pay attention to at SEC Media Days. What is Brian Kelly saying? Because that's who I'm covering, that's who I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And how quiet is Lane Kiffin? Because if he's quiet, then there's some confidence over there in the Grove.
Julian, thanks so much for taking time. I know you're off today. First of all, is that Kobe in the background?
Yeah, that is Kobe Bryant. I'm from Los Angeles originally, so this is the first time living in the South. So hello to my SEC friends.
Welcome.
Yeah, first time living in the South, but I'm a big-time Laker fan, so it was the first picture I hung up on the wall.
You know what? You might not even need anything else. I mean, you're one of the best to ever do it. You just leave that one up. That's all you need.
Not all general managers are built the same. It's just like, what's that old saying? All thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. Like and so like I think it's going to be set differently.
Okay, you know what? That's legit.
You know, so like
all thumbs are fingers,
but not all fingers are thumbs. Yeah.
Do that and looking to do that young is David Sanders, 5-star right out of high school. He comes in, he's gained 38 pounds. He says he tells people he gained 40 because it sounds better, but it's really 38. He's had multiple weight goals that he's
only offensive linemen sit here and brag about like, yeah, I've gained 40 pounds. Yes.
I don't think the NCAA should touch one of the few good things that they have left in. I personally believe March Madness has 68 teams. That's a perfect number.
Yep.
Now, if you want to go to college football, I'm all in favor of expansion of the college football playoff.
And also versatility for them to also be able to execute on the inside and the outside. That's one thing Alabama didn't really have last year. Somebody goes down, you can fill in really quickly.
All right, well, 2 hours has flown by to the point where we now have 20 seconds to say something, and that's it.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. It's been a great contribution from all of our friends across Nexstar Nation. Julian, Brian, and Casey. Cannot wait to continue to flex the SEC muscle as Southeast Sports Plus continues. For Gerhard, Patrick, I'm Simone Eli, and we will see you tomorrow, 2 to 4.
And that was just a 3-minute snippet of 10 hours of programming here. It's been a great first week here, Patrick.
10 hours flies by. I can't wait for the college football season to start later this month. I mean, it really is just around the corner.
And absolutely. It'll be here before we know it. A lot of teams are going through fall camp practices right now, and we will have a whole lot more next week, some scrimmages, and a whole lot of great talk here on Southeast Sports Plus. We are back here on Monday, 2 to 4 on the WKRG Plus app. For Simone Eli and Patrick Walsh, I'm Gerhard Mathangani. We'll see you here on Monday.